The annoyingness of the Lou.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to
Monday night generational change live stream.
See,
it's
we're
so
just
boring.
like selling sight. We're saying, and we have a special guest already. It didn't take very long.
All right. Here she is.
Lou insists upon always getting involved right off the bat. And so yes,
Yeah.
of course.
So I'm excited tonight. We have Mayor Levine Cava from Miami-Dade, and which is really exciting. And she is, she was endorsed by a Sunrise Movement. So she is definitely a step in the right direction for South Florida.
Well, and the important thing to remember is that, as I try to emphasize many times, in Miami-Dade, you had two Democratic congressional representatives who were unseated, and the seat that everyone was expecting to go to the Republicans did not, actually went to the Democrats. And why is that? Because Mayor Levine Cava ran as a progressive, was supported by the Sunrise Movement, and was not swimming in corporate money the way that other candidates on the Democratic side were. And so when you actually are principled and you actually stand for something, that's when you get change. And little by little, it will happen. But having somebody like her as the mayor, while it's not the end-all be-all, it's definitely a step in the right direction. I think most people would agree with that.
Yes.
So for everybody who's watching right now, for the first time, if you're here, remember to hit the like button, subscribe on YouTube. That's where we need everybody watching. And also, if you can comment, like, and share on as many video clips as possible. We've been on a little bit of a delay the past week. Our trusty producer, John, unfortunately, was in the middle of that polar vortex. It seems like everybody...
He's in rural Missouri. And it takes him, he has to drive 30 miles to get to where he can use good Wi-Fi. And so he was snowed in and didn't have access to it. This is,
But hey, at least the scenery is much better out in the heartland than it is here in South Florida. I mean, yeah, you got the beaches and all, but I like the countryside. I like the mountains. I like the Ozarks. Isn't that what
I do? Well, I actually you've never been to the Ozarks.
I have not.
I have. I have been to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and it's really
nice.
Beautiful. It's very beautiful there, and I liked it a lot, but I'm a mountain person.
I love the mountains too. I mean, I like all different types of terrain in the country, but I just like being out in nature. Like for me, that's definitely one of my favorite things. We do have a couple of interesting ideas that we've been tossing around, Jen, if you'd like to share with everybody. In particular, what we're going to do as far as combining one of the most favorite things in the world to do in South Florida, which is Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, Yeah. So I figure at least once a month, what I want to do is have Taco Tuesday and beach cleanup, and we could discuss as to whether we want to get tacos from the taco joint or the taco spot. We should do half and half and have sort of like a blind tasting.
Between the taco spot and the taco joint.
Yes, both on Hollywood Beach. They're really close to each other. I've eaten at both. I like both, but I would really need to compare them side by side. So that could be like one of my first goals. But anyway, so we're going to do we are going to schedule, I don't know when, maybe next week. I don't know. We could do it whenever. We're going to schedule our first Taco Tuesday beach cleanup.
Yeah. And
what it'll be is we'll meet at Hollywood Beach. We'll give everybody an address where we're going to meet. We'll meet at 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock in the morning is good. Clean up, walk up and down the beach, clean up for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then have tacos.
Like a Tuesday lunch special.
Like a Tuesday, Taco Tuesday.
Yes.
It's the thing. So that's my idea or my excuse for getting fish tacos.
Well, that's true. That's also a good excuse. And a lot of people will obviously be on break coming up, however abbreviated it may be. But obviously in the month of March, we know we've got, there's, I guess like spring break for most schools.
I have no idea. I'm so out. My son doesn't even, he's just lived, everyone's at home now. So it doesn't even matter.
Well, it's definitely been a much more difficult circumstance considering, we've obviously had a very serious situation here in Broward in lieu of the teachers union. Probably should, get Anna Fusco to come on at some point and talk about it. But, there's definitely a war of sorts between the teachers union and the superintendent and, probably the GOP at large. A lot of people are not safe and they don't feel comfortable going back to school. And quite frankly, until we get COVID under control in this state, I don't blame them. I understand that, the kids have to get their higher education, but at the same time, the bumbling of this entire administration when it comes to dealing with this entire pandemic has just been such a nightmare. I mean, it's just
that's just everywhere though.
Yeah,
it really is everywhere.
It is. But the callousness of DeSantis's administration cannot be understated. They just don't care.
No.
And when you hear him trying to, basically like Trump, be like, well, if you're not going to be nice, then I guess we'll just have to go to another county and give them vaccines. It's like, dude, what are you kidding? I mean,
like I know like petulant children having temper tantrums.
And these are the people the people we elect for high office. Because they're so worthy of it.
I feel like sometimes it's funny because I say sometimes I'm looking for the camera, and I don't mean like that camera. I mean like the one where I think I'm in the Truman Show and that this can't possibly be real, and that like how ridiculous everything is.
You mean like flying flags at half staff for Rush Limbaugh?
Yes. Oh my God.
I mean, Ron, just tell us this is a joke. Like at some point, give us like a.
I can't.
Okay, we're just kidding with you. It's not real.
Okay, so we could let's go back to announcements for a second. So we'll have Taco Tuesday. I need to check and see if we can do it this next Tuesday.
And if Melissa's on already.
I'm not prepared to do it tomorrow, but next Tuesday we should do that. Let's schedule it for next Tuesday. Yeah. So Melissa, I don't know if Melissa's watching, but yeah, we'll schedule it for March 2nd. It's good. It'll be the first of the month. We'll like our first Tuesday of the month.
Well, what we're going to want to do
that's what we could do the first Tuesday of the month and like have it be a thing.
And we also discovered a great organization that does, it's not paddleboarding, but
it's kayaking, which is better for me. Okay. First of all, I tried the stand-up paddleboarding once. I did. I was able to do it. I fell once, but I was able to do it. But there is no way that I would be able to do that and collect garbage at the same time. Now, I'm not Kat, okay? Kat could probably be doing that, like standing on her head. And
our good friend Kat Uden is one of the great environmentalists here in South Florida.
But no, so kayaking, plus it makes more sense because you do need to have a place to collect the garbage. So it's paddling with a purpose, and we're going to try to do something with, again, any excuse to go kayaking.
Oh, and get an exercise and help the community.
Yeah, well, and that's sort of my favorite ecosystem. Like I love the mangroves. I love that. So the idea of cleaning that. But you were doing a good segue into the other project that we're going to start is a labor series.
Yes.
Because you talked about having Anna Fusco come on, which would be great. But we are going to be doing a weekly labor series, talking to different labor leaders. And quite honestly, rank and file people. That's what we're wanting to do. So we're going to have, and hopefully we will be able to create some sort of field opportunities for this and to be able to go out to some of the, when we went during the campaign to go out and meet with the iron workers, I knew what iron workers were. I've seen the picture from, the New York skyscrapers of the guy sitting on the thing. But you don't know.
You saw Bernie with the.
Yes, I saw Bernie. But you don't know, but going to see with the iron workers, and they have this whole apprenticeship training thing, and it was just really cool. And I think I thought that would be a really cool, people should know this. It was just a very cool thing.
Well, I think again, this is what I've always said is technology is our greatest asset, and it's our greatest detriment at the same time. It's great to advance and to be able to communicate with people all over the country, all over the world. But at the same time, it also makes you extremely lethargic, much more codependent on the sans technology versus, having self-preservation. And so being able to learn a trade, being able to do things of that nature is becoming somewhat of a lost art. And on top of everything else, in the state of Florida, we're one of the worst states for labor because we are right to work. I don't know how many states in the country are right to work. I think it's like 15 or something like that.
It's definitely a minority. It's definitely a minority.
But a state like Florida, which is built on the hospitality and tourism industry, the idea that this is a right to work state is insane.
It's just rife with abuse.
It is.
And so that's the thing. We're going to start our labor series. We have our new intern, Chloe, who is our video production intern. She is a student at Nova, and she is going to be overseeing doing a series on labor. So it'll involve some field work, some guests. I think it'll be really cool. And just general labor issues. It almost makes me, I'm feeling very nostalgic. I had this idea of reaching out to my labor law professor, John Teeter, because he was the greatest professor ever.
And this was at
St. Mary's Law.
Okay. And
shout out to the amazingly good John Teeter.
Hope he's doing okay right now.
Yes. But this was the professor. This was the same professor that on the first day came in and said, there are no such thing as stupid questions. There's stupid people that ask questions.
Ouch.
It was love at first sight for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, but he's a labor law specialist. But anyway, I thought that would be kind of cool. We don't have to, we could cover like the academic side of it too. I think it's really interesting and people don't understand. They don't understand the history of labor. They don't understand how it works, what it is. People don't really know that.
No,
That's
and of course,
and I think it's really important.
You know, Labor Day only came into existence in the late 1800s because of how many people were dying. Because, you know, you had no child labor laws. You had people that were not working 40 hours a week. They were working 60, 70, 80 hours a week and slaving themselves because couldn't negotiate. But when I want to say it may have been, guys, whoever wants to do a little history lesson right now, I think it was President Cleveland who signed Labor Day into law. I want to say it was in the 1880s. I'm pretty sure. But ever since then, there, you know, slowly but surely, you know, we've been attempting to have workers' rights in this country, and we've gone through many different, you know, periods where, you know, labor had its moments. There's no question. You know, William Jennings Bryan, who was on the, you know, the Democratic side, who was opposing there were basically three oligarchs. Amazing how many we have today, but there were basically three oligarchs in this country in
Rockefeller,
the 19th century: John
Carnegie.
Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, and J.P. Morgan. And so these three men ran the country, and William McKinley was their pick. And the presidential election of 1896, that's a great one. That's a great history lesson for those of you who don't know too much about it.
And let us know if you're enjoying this history lesson.
Yes,
by the way, we
absolutely.
could have a whole history segment with.
But William Jennings Bryan was definitely the first true presidential candidate who went full on into the labor movement and believed in, you know, having a minimum wage, having
It's a good question. We'll find out.
We will find that out, Eric. That's a very good question.
It is a good question, Eric, and actually we will ask her. Sure. I don't know. Sadly, as much as we are next to Miami-Dade, we're not in Miami-Dade where we live. So I wouldn't see that.
Yeah, so I wouldn't.
There would be nowhere, right? I will. But we can ask.
So in addition to that,
sorry, Grover Cleveland.
No.
No.
So William McKinley ultimately ended up getting assassinated, and they never would have anticipated that somebody like Teddy Roosevelt would have become the president. But at the start of the 20th century, that's really where labor started to take off. And that's really where the push became even greater, not necessarily just with Teddy Roosevelt, but you had Eugene Debs, who was the head of the Socialist Party. And little by little, the advancement to become a labor-friendly country took shape. And over the next few decades, it ultimately did come to pass. And most of it did ultimately happen under FDR. It did take a depression for us to get there.
But we're there now. We're there again. And here we are.
So we went through, I guess, what you would call about 4 decades of economic prosperity in terms of upward mobility in society. Then Reagan came along, and we've dealt with the last several presidential campaigns that have done the same thing, which is everything goes to the top and everything trickles down.
This would be a very good time to plug our podcast with Thom Hartmann.
Yes.
We had Thom Hartmann on the show, and it's about his new book, which is The Hidden History of American Oligarchy, which is really about what we're talking about right now, how it happens in cycles. It's cyclical. The oligarchy is cyclical.
Reagan definitely threw it in the wrong direction, and now we're trying to throw it back in the right direction. And Bernie in a lot of ways, ironically, Bernie in a lot of ways is like William Jennings Bryan. William Jennings Bryan actually ended up running for president 3 times. He didn't win. Actually, the one in 1896 was his best run, but he ended up running 3 times for president. And even though Bernie didn't become president, he kind of is that modern day William Jennings Bryan, setting the pace once again for the labor movement to grow. And I think it will. And I think having the guests that we'll have come on, we'll have the head of the firefighters union, potentially the head of the CWA. We're going to have some very interesting guests come along that are going to talk about, how we really continue to build.
We can have effing Fred Frost. I can't say it anymore.
That'd
can't
be great.
say it.
That'd be great.
We're monetized.
Fred, if you're out there, we want you to
definitely.
Effing Fred Frost gets.
And also condolences on your mom.
Yes,
that was the other thing. If there is Fred Frost,
Freddie's been through. He's been through
a hard few years.
Yeah, but we're fighting for him, just like he fought for us for so long. We fight for him. So
Okay,
With that
so I just got confirmation on something so that we can now have a date for our Pardon Assange telethon.
That's good.
And so we want to do March 20th, which is a Saturday. And I think we need to do a 4-hour block. And I don't know if we should do that. Like my idea might be to do 2 to 6 Eastern time. I don't know. We could talk about it. We've got to talk about it. But anyway, so people can preliminarily mark your calendars. March 20th, we're going to do a Pardon Assange telethon. Katie Halper will be co-hosting with me. And we already have some really good confirmations of people. So it should be really fun. I also have a few comedian ideas that people that we want to get to come on and maybe do some stuff.
Yes, we definitely have a few comedians.
We have a few comedian friends out there.
We're talking about real comedians.
Real comedians.
No offense.
No. Oh my God.
No, there's
no, but yeah. So that would be really fun. So March 20th, Saturday, probably I would say somewhere 2 to 6 or 4 to 8, somewhere in that time frame on Saturday.
I think we would want to do it where it's conducive to people who are on the West Coast and people who are in
it's
people
both,
who are
right.
in the United Kingdom. I think that if we can sort of, I think that so that
you want to be as wide as possible, right? So
what's the time zone? Is it 5 hours ahead in England?
I think 6 from
6?
here.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's probably reasonable. I would think so.
Yeah, Mallory, we're going to do, Katie Halper agreed to co-host. It was just this idea, like I want every single progressive, quote unquote, whatever, not even progressive, just free speech content creator to live stream at the same time. I mean, ideally, that's how this would be done. Technologically, right now, how it is, we have StreamYard will host, but if somebody wants to also host or, spread live stream while they're on. We've reached out to some people already, but I really wanted to have a date before officially inviting people. So we have a very long list of people. Everybody from, I'm going to invite Marianne Williamson is someone who would definitely, I think, be willing to speak at that event. Like, obviously, I'd love to get Jesse Ventura. I feel like if I say that enough times, it could happen.
Jen, I will definitely make a point to come on to your podcast.
You make him sound slow.
No, he's not slow. I am the body and I get things done.
No, he's Midwestern. He's got the total Midwestern thing.
Minnesota.
Yes.
Minnesota. You got to emphasize it.
All right. So, yeah. So that's.
Don't say anything.
So anyway, that's the cool thing. March 20th, Pardon Assange telethon. We might even be able to come up with a cooler name or some stuff by then. But that's the plan. And the only thing I can say is really, I hope that he gets pardoned between now and then we don't have to do it, but we could do it anyway. We would do a celebratory. We would be a celebratory Assange party.
Yeah, we obviously are, we do believe in civil liberties, and that is an issue that a lot of progressives and libertarians share.
Yes.
For those who think that pardoning Assange is not important, look at what is going right now. Look at what's going on right now with the crackdown on independent media. Jamal Thomas, Jordan Chariton with Status Coup. There's a lot of problems with getting content out there. And this is a way that people make a living.
It's not Jimmy Mallory.
No, he's just having fun. I
do think it's Sam.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
I think it's Sam. And that's just my guess. Although it could be any one of that little crew that still hangs out. That little troublemaking.
I wouldn't put it past anybody.
So it's our volunteers from our campaign that are friends and are still social, and I think they're being troublemakers.
So the one topic we do want to talk about before the mayor comes on is it appears that Neera Tanden is not going to be confirmed as the budget
Office of Management and Budget.
Office
of Management and Budget.
Look, I just hope it doesn't have to come down to Bernie having to cast that vote, because they really because he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
You know what? I personally cannot believe the amount of so-called, quote, progressives that have said that we should be supporting that appointment. First of all, I didn't know that the executive director of the Justice Democrats, TYT, is pushing her. Are you kidding me?
First of all, the Justice Democrats never came out in support of Jen. So, look.
No, but they're still, I mean, they were created. I mean, it's very sad to me. The Justice Democrats came out supporting Neera Tanden. Like this, you cannot be a progressive and support her in that position. You just can't. That's an oxymoron. That is, and I just put out a post that said, to me, that is more oxymoronic than Jews for Jesus. No offense to people that are Jews for Jesus. I support everyone's rights to believe whatever they want, but it is on paper oxymoronic.
What about anybody who's on the Democratic side who just wants to disregard the things that happened?
You know what? I don't even consider Democrats left anymore. So who knows? They're all just moderate Republicans in the center. So
well, that's the thing that I think a lot of people really need to understand. And that's the thing that frustrates me, and that I think a lot of people really need to become a little bit more keen on. All the time we always point the finger in one direction and say, it's that person's fault. It's that person's fault. Why do they support that? Why do they support this? Universally, everybody on the Democratic side, even the most hardened conservative Democrats who are just Republicans, let's be honest.
Exactly.
They agree with a $15 minimum wage. Yet for whatever reason, Biden is not going to put it in the budget, in the new $1.9 trillion stimulus package, and it can absolutely be passed through reconciliation.
So clearly,
the fact that he's not doing it, even though it is overwhelmingly popular across the board. You have to stop pointing fingers at the voters and start pointing the fingers where they belong. You can't say you have to vote for this person, you vote for that person. No, what you need to do is hold your elected officials accountable from all levels. That is who is responsible. And why are they not answering to us? Why are they not doing what is of the will of the people? Because we have corporate special interest money that flows all throughout our political establishment from every level. And it gets worse and worse the higher you go. And we have a president who is completely captured by corporate interests. And that is, to me, one of the biggest problems that we face right now. Do I think Neera Tanden is going to get confirmed? No.
I'm hoping not. No. And I don't care what anybody's reasons are. I don't think, look, Joe Manchin and I do not have the same reasons for disliking Neera Tanden, but I'll take the win. I don't care. And I don't care who it is, and whether it's the other talking heads or other representatives, you cannot say that you are in favor of progress and support someone like her in that position. You can't. It has to be 100. That is a purely political. She has no qualifications for that job, first of all. Especially that position. So it isn't even just the fact that she's so divisive. I mean, which she is horribly divisive. She's just so pro-austerity and pro-war. And so she is so not what we need in that position. She's just not. Even taking, the fact that she was partially responsible for Bernie losing off the table.
I don't know how much responsibility I would put on her shoulders, but the truth of the matter is she runs an organization that will take corporate special interest money from anybody.
The center of incremental progress.
I wouldn't even call it progress. I would just say that she's working for an organization that does. It's one of the, again, it's what DC is. It's a cesspool. And this is why people don't want to be involved in this stuff. When you know that this person is not good, and the person who is the political director of the Justice Democrats is coming out and defending this person, what do you think? What kind of a message do you think that sends to the not so involved political people? They don't want to be involved because they're not seeing any substance. And as far as I'm concerned, the way we change that is by giving them something that has teeth. Issues have teeth. Grassroots involvement has teeth. The political posturing, all that stuff, that has no teeth. But with that said, we do have a special guest.
We have a special guest. Wait. Just because she stepped away because she's not scheduled. She's back. There she is. She's back.
Well, there's no rush.
No, there's no rush.
She wants to come on board.
There's no rush. Yeah. So we, I was thinking that question could be that's a good icebreaker.
Which one?
The ridiculous half math.
Oh, well, again, I mean,
it's so silly.
Well, because like I said, I think it's is there any policy to it? No. Is it going to hurt anybody? No. But it's being done because it's a way to drive the wedge deeper. That's what it is. There's nothing to it.
Yeah.
And of
There's
all the
nothing to
people that
do.
you could do that for, and they're actual defenders of Rush. It's like amazing. Like they think he's God or something.
Well,
you
he
know,
did get that big medal.
amazing. It is truly amazing what what we do have to put up with when it comes to, the partisan hackery that comes along with being involved in politics. Like I said, the only thing that matters to me are the issues and how we advance the agenda that is going to work best for the working class of this country.
And so with that, we are very happy to welcome someone who is a change maker for sure. Not that I like to throw out identity politics, because I don't, but she is the first female mayor of Miami-Dade, which is very cool to me because I am actually from Dade. Prior to it being Miami-Dade, it used to just be Dade, but so now it's Miami-Dade. And so that's really cool. And she is also progressive and supports progressive things and is great. And my understanding is on water. So we're going to talk about water because we need it. And so here is Mayor Levine Cava. Hi.
Hello, good evening.
How are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent.
First and foremost, a formal congratulations. We haven't had the chance to speak.
Yeah.
But,
Right,
I did
right.
send you a message. Jen sent you a message, and look, I think I think we can get right into it. The fact that you did run as a pro-environment progressive in South Florida in a county that saw 2 Democratic congressional seats lost, and you ended up winning a race that nobody saw coming. I think it really speaks to what it means to have grassroots support and to be a policy-oriented candidate. If you could speak on that, that would be wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for bringing up important topics on your show. Yeah, look, I was elected in a pandemic because people are really struggling, and I am someone who has a long history of being dedicated to helping people as a social worker, as a public interest lawyer. Certainly the environmental groups all knew I was the environmentalist in the mix. Certainly the labor rights groups knew I was that champion. The LGBTQ community knew I was their champion. The women's groups, as you say, progressive groups knew that my history over 40 years in Miami-Dade County was championing their causes. But that to be said, in a pandemic, I won across the divides because people are hurting and they see me as someone who really cares and will do everything in my power to make things better.
Yeah, obviously, we haven't had the best statewide response to this pandemic. Our governor, as we know, is more concerned with Rush Limbaugh than he is with helping with COVID relief. So how are you finding that in terms of managing, especially now that there's a vaccine and overseeing how that's all being, applied to everybody?
From the early days of the pandemic, I was calling for more protections, more science-based approach. I did appoint a chief medical officer, which has been hugely helpful to us, Dr. Peter Page, who is Jackson chief medical officer as well. He's been very involved on decision-making about the new normal guidelines, the curfew, return to work policies, day-to-day monitoring the virus and so on. But truly, we've been in this vaccination period for the last few months, and it has been really challenging. Thank goodness people want the vaccine, right? We do have vaccination skeptics, but we're not at that stage. Right now, we're at people desperate to get back to some semblance of normal. And by the way, we are seeing that the number of people getting the vaccine is really helping us. We believe that's contributing to a leveling off of our positivity. The people feel certainly less, especially older folks who've been so isolated while they're taking these precautions, and young people who are, protecting their elders. It's just been so debilitating, and not to mention people who fear for their lives, and many of whom have lost their lives. 5,000 people in Miami-Dade County have died from COVID, along with 500,000 figure for the entire country. It's just so shameful, so horrifying. So I live, breathe a vaccine.
Yeah.
And never enough for the people that are ready to take it, fighting for more, fighting for better distribution channels. And actually this week we're really excited because the feds are coming to town. So starting next week, we're going to have massive federal additional site, 2,000 per day, plus mobile units of 1,000 per day. So that's 21. We're basically doubling the dosage next week.
That's awesome. I wonder how Broward's doing. I'm always scared to know. Like, I'm always like, oh, do I want to know? But
Well, the good news is that Miami-Dade has a great mayor at the county level as well as the city of Miami. And that is obviously a good segue with what's been going on with Mayor Suarez in Miami with housing. This is a real crisis, and dealing with that as the county mayor, I can only imagine how many calls your office must get a day. What is, I guess, the short and the long-term plan, at least for the next year and beyond, into how you guys will be dealing at the county level as far as housing is concerned?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the highest cost of living compared to our relatively low salaries in the country. So the highest percentage of people spending more than 50% of their income on housing related costs. So it's totally unsustainable. And, interesting in this discussion about new tech coming to town, there's a lot of discussion about, will that drive up housing prices and create even more of a divide? So we have to be super aggressive. Housing is really a crisis of affordability. We're moving forward. Our housing starts more quickly. I'm going to be convening a roundtable to talk about ways that our housing builders can step up and do more to create that housing more quickly. We've got county properties that we need to deploy for more affordable housing, again, more quickly. I've been aware through my work as commissioner that there are ways of building that housing at a more affordable rate. So, for example, the actual construction costs. There's pre-built, it's called form building that reduces the cost. There's shared co-housing that's going forward in a lot of communities now that helps reduce the cost. So, we've got to leverage all of those things we should be producing ideally 10,000 new units every year. That's what we need. It's quite astonishing.
There's no shortage of development. Like, there's no shortage of construction. There's no shortage of building. When we're down in the Dade portion, like, really for us, that's the beach. So we're Aventura, Sunny Isles, and down to Bell Harbor. And, when I go to Sunny Isles, it's unrecognizable. Like, that's just unrecognizable to me. I don't know that they could fit any more concrete in that few square miles.
Actually, I think they can't. And I think that's one of the things I've been told is part of Sunny Isles challenge, because it's really fueled its own operations on growth, and it's pretty much come to full growth.
And yet they're still trying to build. The last commission meeting I went to, they were arguing over a new parking garage for Aqualina 972 or however many Aqualinas they're on. But they're going to start having water problems. So I was wondering if you could talk about that, because I know that that's an issue that we care about. And obviously where we are in Florida, we're very vulnerable to issues with our drinking water. And I think they're overdeveloping, and we're in a bad way.
Yeah. So we've got a third of all Floridians dependent upon the Everglades and the aquifer under the Everglades for our drinking water. So this is a very serious challenge. We need Everglades restoration to recharge the aquifer. We need to deal with sea level rise, which is putting salt into our well fields and pushing up against the aquifer. So saltwater intrusion is a huge problem. And we also have pollution. So we have the water and sewer system breaking down in Miami-Dade as well as in Broward, old plumbing and so on. And we have the largest infrastructure project in the state of Florida's history on the rebuild of our water and sewer system. But, switching from drinking water to the bay, which is our economy, our livelihood, our health, we had that famous fish kill with thousands and thousands of marine animals.
Yeah, what
killed.
happened there? Like that was like a year ago or a couple, like when was that? It was
It was
fairly
in the fall. It
okay.
was yeah.
It was, yeah, it was like right around election time. I mean, I remember, and it got kind of glossed over. It got lost in that. And yeah, so what happened with that?
The water heated up and also loss of oxygen. So when you have too many nutrients in the water, it's impossible for the sea life to grow, the seagrass, and also literally there was no oxygen for the fish to breathe. So we have to attack it on every level. We know that we have a septic problem. We have too many homes on septic, and as the water level rises, the septic runoff is going into our water. The fertilizer runoff, that's a problem. The garbage dumps into the waterways, and the breaking of the sewage system. All of those things together led to this massive die-off. And so now we're attacking it aggressively. And the septic to sewer conversion is a #1 priority for us in the county, for our state delegation. We're talking also to our federal government about it. We obviously can't continue to just pollute our waterways and think that we'll have anything left. Our environment is our economy.
We're speaking with the Mayor of Miami-Dade County, Daniella Levine Cava. Can you talk about, one of the issues that I think we can do at the local level, because all politics is local, despite what, it always seems to be a top-down instead of a bottom-up, which is what it should be. I think that the thing we can do at the local level that would be very effective is a plastic ban. I've seen it done. I'm from New Jersey, and I know that they ban plastic across the board in Hoboken, New Jersey. I do know that it can be done probably municipality to municipality. I was curious as to how it could potentially work, and that if that is something you're currently working on.
Yeah, so as commissioner, I did bring a single-use plastic approach. We are preempted by the state legislature from doing what you just described.
Yes.
Yes. So our state legislature knows best, and they are kowtowing to the retail association that wants to be able to continue to use plastics with impunity. But Miami Beach had already passed a ban, and so they were allowed to grandfather that in. Coral Gables was in the middle of passing a ban when this preemption came down, and so far they've been allowed to kind of hold. But Miami-Dade County was behind, and so we are subject to this preemption. And when I tried to bring it in just as a ban on county purchasing, because we can, with our own money, limit what we do, I ran into all kinds of barriers with the commissioners. So I hope that we'll be able to bring that back now. It's a new commission, half new, and hopefully there'll be more awareness. In the meantime, let me say, recycling is obviously not doing too well either. So we have not all of that plastic, of course, is recyclable. Most of it, it could be recycled, but there's no market for it. But we are doing really poorly in Miami-Dade County on the percentage of recycling that is done correctly. So I'm going to have to lead a major effort to make sure we do better. We need to at least be recycling those plastic bottles.
Which is a really good segue. I just thought of this, and it's sort of random, but what are your thoughts on municipal composting? Because
Yeah.
I think, I look at the fact that we have so many landfills here. You can't miss the mounds of landfills when you're driving, through here. And I just think that's something like, why aren't we doing that? Like, why aren't we having municipal composting?
Yeah. So I understand some of the municipalities are doing some of it. The county in the past had, challenges around collection. But again, it's on my list to pursue.
Yeah.
I personally do compost. I know you can compost from an apartment as well as from a home. Obviously, there's receptacles, and makes a lot of sense. And we definitely want to promote composting as well.
Yeah, we've been working on a community garden project out in Hollywood that is really amazing. And so we're also doing composting there. So now it has spread, and now I'm composting, and it's just like, it's contagious, which is good. But the whole need for community gardens. And I think teaching sustainability is a really massive thing. I think it is something that our kids should be learning, and they don't. We're still, and I know these are state issues. I know that you don't control our education system here, but I think what I'm saying, I mean, the idea of encouraging community farming and that idea, and now that we can have vegetation on our front lawns via the state,
there you go.
I think it's,
Yes.
I mean, I think it's something that's really important, but what are your thoughts about that and food deserts and sustainability, like where we are now?
Yeah, so I've worked a lot on that issue in the past, and we just need to really get the private sector to see the marketability. I mean, there was a wonderful project that was done a few years back where they were able to show hidden wealth in certain communities to then draw in the kinds of grocery stores that would provide access to healthy food. These neighborhoods were sort of written off, but like redlining, but by showing that in fact there's a market. Also, I know Health Foundation, which is in both Miami-Dade and Broward, has worked to really help stock corner grocery stores with more produce. So those are some of the ways. Also,
what are your thoughts on, like, I'm sorry, for using like county property, like and open
yes, absolutely,
for community gardens, because we have friends that
yes.
run around and do guerrilla gardening and put gardens even where they're not supposed to until they get caught.
Yes.
That's what we need, is land.
Yeah. So one of the things that I have been focused on are sort of smaller parcels that are really not suitable for housing, because of course we also need the housing, and seeing if we could work. There are groups that are interested in coming in and helping us to do more community gardens. And actually within our own parks department, we have people that support community gardening. So it's, I'm writing down these ideas as good reminders. I've been in office for 3 months.
I know.
We're coming up on my first 100 days, and it's been pretty intense, especially with still the pandemic. But for sure, all of these things that you're talking about that are more about sustainability. We do have, of course, an Office of Resilience. Now we have our Chief Bay Officer. We're coming up with an updated Green Print 2.0 that will include many of these things that we're discussing now.
What would you say, now that you are the top elected official in the county and you are a progressive, and Miami is considered some of the most important political real estate in the country, what's it like maneuvering through all of the corporate special interests that will inevitably run through your office and everybody's offices, throughout Miami-Dade? And how do you deal with that? Because that's something, I still think that the biggest issue we face in politics today, bar none, on both sides, is corporate special interest money in politics. And dealing with that, that is the singular problem. And trying to, like you said, bridge that partisan divide, which, as we know in Miami-Dade, is intense. So if you can speak on that and what that's been like over the first few months, be very interested to hear about it.
So there's really a few aspects to what you're asking. I'm trying to think in which order to talk about them.
However it makes sense.
First, let me say, as far as partisan, it is a nonpartisan position, and I was elected with substantial support across the aisle, including from independents, of course, which is the largest party, really. But definitely, I have Trump supporters on my team. So I have a broad cross section because of the people issues that I champion. And the other thing is that we need, of course, these businesses to create jobs. And I've been working very hard to create more jobs. Now, as far as lobbying interests, we are restricted by the Supreme Court and Citizens United. And I have worked on some campaign finance reform as a county commissioner, which I was able to effectuate. Like, all money needs to be disclosed, not just to campaigns, but also to political committees, which was actually a big breakthrough in the county, at least making transparent these things. But I think I'm going to be increasing the scrutiny of how people contact county staff. So stay tuned. I have to come out with this plan. It's not really out for public consumption, but we are looking at some ways it's all about accountability, because I cannot really stop the flow of money. At least we can create more awareness, more transparency. I have a whole office that I've created of engagement, and included in engagement is making what the county does and what happens at the county easier to access. And we're just starting budget hearings. In fact, tonight we had our very first budget hearing for a budget that gets approved in September. And that is unprecedented. We've never started this early, but I really wanted to be sure that the public had access early on to be able to weigh in and participate more actively.
I appreciate that. I think that's what people really want. I talk about that all the time, is that people just want transparency. People just want there are people who are representing them to be accountable to them, not always expecting everything to be perfect and get every single thing you want. I think, most people just want some realism and honesty with what's going on.
And let me mention, we're in the middle of our first survey, Thrive 305. And I hope that any of your listeners in Miami-Dade will take the time to fill it out. It's about a 15-minute survey in 3 languages.
Where is that? Where is that on your website?
Yes, it's on, there's a website, thrive305.org.
Okay, so
Yep.
All right, we're going to put it up.
And you can share it, and with as many as you wish. We've had, 12,000 or so completed. I'm aiming for 20,000, and Friday is the deadline, so help me out.
No, that's awesome. I've been saying that all along. I was always curious why now, with the technology that we have and how easy social media is, why are our representatives not asking for our input on their things? Like, that's something that we know the answer, but I very much appreciate that. I think that's what the job is for. I think that's sort of.
Yes, I do. That's exactly what I think. Yes. and we're also going to follow up with what we're calling Civic Weekends. So start in March, we're going to have a series of in-person and virtual combined, and then leading up to an action plan based on public input.
That's really cool. If there's any way we can help promote that, anything that's civics related is woefully undertaught, woefully under-spoken about, and civics is huge. So anything that we can do to help promote I started this out thinking I would do little civics lessons, but it turns out, even though I understand it, I'm really not a teacher. I have a vast appreciation for teachers, but I am not one of them, and it is a skill. And so anything that we could do to promote civics education is, we're really into that.
Great.
What I do want to address, which I think is very important, because there is direct impact at the federal level in terms of policy that might ultimately come down.
Yeah.
If you could talk about, because I do think, we talk about the Green New Deal all the time, and that is a major issue, especially for the Sunrise Movement. The way I push the Green New Deal is a infrastructure bill centered on clean energy jobs, and Lord knows the state of Florida would benefit exponentially from that.
Yeah.
If you could talk about what the benefits of a clean energy jobs infrastructure bill and a $15 minimum wage would mean for Miami-Dade County, I think that would definitely help out a lot of viewers.
How would that help your people?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let me start with the second part, the salary part. That's about what our living wage is here in Miami-Dade County. And I was a leader in the living wage movement 20 years ago at my nonprofit, where we worked across the faith community, the labor community, the community to get the first living wage ordinance passed in southeastern United States. And many at the time were very skeptical, very nervous that it would make it more difficult for minority businesses to compete. But of course, it creates a level playing field. And it's turned out to be very successful. And really, it has bipartisan support. So I hope that raising the minimum wage will have that same reception. It's really tricky in this time. People are very nervous because of the pandemic and the downturn, and they think that this will be very difficult. But, I think, again, you do things gradually, and everybody benefits. So that's what I think about that. As far as green jobs, for sure, we are the Sunshine State, but you wouldn't know it from the fact that we were purchasing most of our solar panels from China or some such. So we need to bump it up. And I was the sponsor of the Solar United Communities. What is it called?
Some acronym about solar and community.
Yes. I'm sorry,
something
because it changed their
pleasant.
name. But it's a wonderful initiative that creates cooperatives for people to be able to purchase solar at a lower price. We also are bringing solar to the county, and that's, more jobs. Solar is jobs. And we also are looking at more subsidy that will help the lower or low moderate income homeowners to do solar. And again, these are really good jobs, right? I mean, all this infrastructure is good jobs. So we're doing electric retrofitting, electric buses, reducing our carbon footprint in our buildings. All of those are the kinds of jobs that are, good they're well paid, they're good for the environment, and save us money.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't, obviously we know the reason is special interests fight against it, because based on science and based on economics, it really is what makes sense. Our infrastructure is crumbling. So why wouldn't you rebuild it with the better technology that is green, that is sustainable? Well, it's obviously the answer. And it's just a matter of fighting against special interests to get things done. And that's really what's very frustrating.
Yeah, that's the primary. There's no question.
But the market is changing. So, for example, even when President Trump eliminated the standards for fuel emissions, like now all the major companies are going electric. So, really we also have to vote with our pocketbooks,
Yeah. I mean, I remember when the Metro Rail was built. Like, I remember that, and I don't think it ever sort of lived up to what it could have been or what it should. And I remember at the time, and I was young when it was built, but it just wasn't. It didn't make as much sense in terms of where the geographic locations of the people were that needed to get where they needed to go. And we've always had very poor mass transit down here. Like, my whole life, we've never had great mass transit down here.
And that is why we need that clean energy jobs infrastructure bill, because Lord knows we need that high-speed rail, not going to Orlando, but going all the way to Tallahassee.
That would be really cool.
Let me tell you, I'm trying to go to Tallahassee. There's no flights from Miami or Fort Lauderdale.
It's such a pain. It's such a pain.
Honestly, Danielle, if you knew that from where you live, all you have to do is get on the high-speed rail and you could be in Tallahassee in 4 hours, how many people would be doing that? I think it would become, the type of interstate commerce we would have by having the high-speed rail going from, obviously Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, up to Orlando, then obviously stopping in Gainesville.
He has a vision.
I did. Well,
he has a transportation, but we can't even get, I was laughing before. We have a president that was creating a space force, and we can't even get a light rail from Palm Beach to Orlando. We can't even get the Brightline expansion we were supposed to get.
And that is a great segue to our last question before we do a quick rapid fire with the audience. So the last question, of course, is we have a very big election coming up next year. Yes, I'm keep track, because there's always an election coming. Obviously, we do have. There's always going to be important elections at the local level, but of course, we are having a new gubernatorial election next year. A number of candidates are making it clear right now that they are going to get in. If you can talk about, if we were to have a Democratic governor in 2022, what that would mean specifically for Medicaid expansion in Miami-Dade County and how that would help a lot of people. If you could talk on that, that'd be great.
Well, first of all, Medicaid expansion is one of my favorite topics, believe it or not. I've worked on Medicaid expansion for most of my adult career, and I just was in touch with Miriam Harmatz I just had an email this evening on this very topic. And what will it take to get Medicaid expansion? I understand that it is becoming somewhat more bipartisan because, why shouldn't the federal government pay a bigger share of our healthcare dollars? We're caring for people, and it's costing, at the local level, and our, for example, at Jackson, if people are not covered by Medicaid, it's coming out of other sources of local revenue. That's not good policy, and you get a good rate from Medicaid. So, Medicaid makes good sense to the people who need access to health care. Fortunately, President Biden opened up again the marketplace for the Affordable Care Act, so more people are able to get in. so many who have lost their insurance as they've lost their jobs, right? We had lost, the gains that we made, we've lost so much of it during this pandemic in terms of healthcare access. So for sure, a Democratic governor would go a long way, but it's really about the legislature. It's really about the imbalance in the legislature. So that's what we've got to fix.
It's a hard, and that's always what it comes down to for anybody in Florida, especially anybody on the progressive side. It's but Tallahassee, no matter what it is, it's like, but that, and it's a big issue that we have here.
But again, I'm always hopeful. I'm a very hopeful person that it could be something across the aisle, that it's something where you kind of see like it's just penny wise and pound foolish.
Especially environmental. I will say that I have met very many Republicans that are pro Everglades restoration down here that are like old school and conservative, but they care about the environment. And so there are definitely issues where we can agree for sure.
Yeah, and we're going to get there. I think that the more people are involved, the easier it's going to be to make that so. We are speaking with the Mayor of Miami-Dade County, Daniella Levine Cava. We have bless you. We have just a few minutes left, but we do have some.
My mom sneezes in threes, so I'm prepared.
So we are going to have a couple of rapid fire questions. First one is from Leroy Bobot. His wife is a school bus driver and wants to know if she is considered an essential worker like a school teacher and if she would be able to get the vaccine.
So if I were in charge, the answer would be yes. Unfortunately, I'm not. So the governor has set the requirements, and they are so far those over 65, those under 65 with underlying health conditions called comorbidities, so serious health problems, and the healthcare workers, as well as the fire rescue. That's it. That's all in Florida. So
and at the rate we're moving at right now, Lord knows how long it's going to be before they incrementally increase the scope.
Yeah, but the good news for us is not so much Broward, but anyway in Miami-Dade, we're getting a federal site, and we're going to double the doses starting next week.
Good.
Yes, and for those of you who think that the difference in the presidents right now doesn't make a difference, hats off to the Biden administration. They are putting where is that location again? The new federal
site? It will be at Miami-Dade College North Campus. So that's in North Miami. It's like, of course, it'll be open to anybody. If you're a Florida resident.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good to know that's happening. That's really good to know. I don't.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a lot of traffic there. There's no question about
it. Yes.
So we do have a question from Kyler Asado who wants to know, is there any current plan for a Green New Deal in the county, depending on, what we can do? Obviously, we talked briefly about the plastic ban, which is something I think we can expand upon. But is there anything in particular in terms of, I'm assuming that from this perspective. Well, this is
environmental justice.
Yes.
I mean, and that to me is so broad. I mean, that's just, there's so many aspects to that, but.
Yeah, so
we did name quite a few of the things that we're working on.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm going to double down. I mean, I started a lot of these things as county commissioner. So now I'm, I'm in a different role. So we can move forward with solar, right? Solar installation on county buildings. So that was my resolution, but it didn't go anywhere. We can move forward on the electric retrofitting and the acceleration of the electric fleet. We can do more on the waterfront so that we can build up our infrastructure to protect against storm surges and saltwater intrusion. So all of those things are now under my jurisdiction. Some of them do require legislation from the commission, so I have to work hand in glove, and also with the state legislature to make sure that they're going to invest in the things that we need state funding for. So I definitely have a very aggressive plan for all of those things, and as well as to encourage those kinds of jobs. I mean, we're going to be creating those kinds of jobs with infrastructure, but also to encourage through our small business development.
Let me ask you, I just want to ask a question. I know that there's ways for citizens and people to get involved in terms of like different panels, commissions, or committees in different ways. Is there something that people can do in Miami-Dade that are interested citizens in terms of the environmental issues?
We have so many wonderful environmental groups. I would say join those. We have the Waterkeeper, Sierra Club, Audubon, Clio. I hesitate because I'm not naming all of them, but
no, I understand.
We have the Climate Alliance. We have so many groups, and they're doing great advocacy. So I think it's really critical. And then those groups, plus following me on social media, letting people know when there are opportunities. And we want you to participate. Fill out the survey. We ask you all kinds of environmental questions.
I know everybody has more questions, but the mayor unfortunately has a hard stop at exactly 9 o'clock.
And
I have to say, we really did a solid job. We got through all the questions. You were very forthcoming about your answers, and that's wonderful. I know we couldn't hit everything, but we certainly hope to have you back again at some point. It's been very informative, and we're very grateful to have you as an ally. We need many more in higher elected positions to recognize that, being a public servant is a lost art, but I definitely think you're fulfilling that very well. And
I'd love to have you come out and see the garden sometime when we get it more.
Right.
I think that would be really cool.
Well, thank you for calling attention to all these issues, and for everybody who wants to be active and engaged. You are the answer to strengthening our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
We'll see you soon. There is no question that she handles herself in a way that's not common. She doesn't obfuscate. She'll take on questions, even if she doesn't necessarily, agree with whatever direction we may want to necessarily have it go in. But there's a lot of pressure to be, the head of a county of this size.
It's massive.
There's a lot. It's
massive.
I don't want to say that if you're the, even a place like Monroe County, which is just south of Dade, it's the one that holds Key West. The truth is, there's such a greater scope. You could literally become a county commissioner, or even a mayor in some of the smaller counties with just a few thousand votes. She ended up becoming the mayor with, I think, was it like 600,000
She
votes
did really
or something?
well.
I mean, it really
and
does.
because she's just like a regular person.
Yeah. And nothing's perfect, but the fact that you have somebody like her as the mayor of a county like Miami-Dade, that's big. Because you're not going to, and again, we weren't going to get into the weeds with her about, Mercurcil Powell and Shalala.
No, because well, first of all, like she said, she is really serving in a nonpartisan capacity.
Which is what I think most people wish politics was.
And so I had no interest in really involving her in a partisan discussion, because it just seems that that's not what she's about.
No, and that's
Nor
why she made it very well. We even said at the time when the election happened, I even said that because she won the county race, she got a lot of Trump supporters to cross over and vote for her. So that was something they didn't anticipate was going to happen.
Yeah.
But what a lot of you out there need to understand is that a lot, and I mean a lot, of Trump voters are working class people with working class values. That doesn't mean that they're loyalists to the GOP, which is why two things are happening right now. There have been multiple polls put out about the fact that a lot of Trump voters want a third party. And if the GOP had their race right now, who would be the nominee? Trump has it by a secretariat mile. That's how
I know. I
ahead.
think like the next second one was like
It's Pence.
And
with
it
like
was
10%.
Yeah.
And the one that they really want to shove down our throats, Nikki Haley, has like less than 5%. So, hey, things are changing. People are just not going to put up with this anymore. People bought into the Trump scare, but what's going to happen now, which I think is a great thing, is a lot of people are going to really put Biden under a microscope, because people are not going to accept the bare minimum of the needle moving in the opposite direction, because we don't have time for that. Trump was willing to go scorched earth, and most people would agree, yeah, we have to get away from that type of behavior. But at the same time, Biden is taking everything off the table now. He's taking off the $15 minimum wage.
This is the same person who has been trying to cut Social Security his entire career. What did people really think was going to happen? And before anybody comes on, yes, I know I voted for Joe. I still was, although again, Florida went red. So my vote was useless. Anyway.
Yes, Miami-Dade did have more Democrat votes than they had Republican votes. But what you have to remember is that the margin that the Democrats had this time compared to even 2016 was substantially less. Trump won the state by 3 points. And in a Florida election, that's a comfortable victory. Most victories in Florida are like 1 point, 1.5 tops. They're very close. But Trump won Florida pretty safe. Couple 100,000 votes. That's a lot.
It just occurred to me that since we had Mayor Levine Cava on, that we have satisfied our sort of Monday Florida, requirement. So,
Yeah.
because I really think Florida Mondays should be Florida and labor. I
Yes.
think like we should have Florida labor Mondays, like
And then Thursday will be candidates and
whatever.
different
Just
things,
well,
special,
Thursday is sort of plus we have our bootlicker on Thursdays.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
agree.
I think we should do that. So let's say that, starting in March for sure, that we will start having, our Florida and labor series on Mondays. And I think it doesn't always have to even be, state legislature. I think it could be local, and I think it could also be social and environmental, and it just something that should be Florida based. It doesn't have to all be Tallahassee.
No,
I know you
I
like to
definitely
focus on that, but
No, but I do think it's important.
once they're really once they're out of committee meetings and things are actually moving, we'll have to, address those things.
No, but again, I do think that the importance of Tallahassee is recognizing that there are a lot of things that the GOP is doing. I had a brief conversation with a lady that I am friendly with, who is the state senator that represents the old area that I used to live in, which is the Delray Boca region, and that is Tina Polsky. She is the state senator from that area, and her focus right now is on House Senate Bill 90, because the GOP in this state are trying to restrict mail-in ballot access. What else is new? So again, the GOP is different in every state. We know that, but it is really bad in this state. They just are. They're extremely regressive, and they're so anti-labor. But like I said, this is a state that really could be an immensely strong pro-labor state. It's part of the reason why it's right to work, because they know that because so much of the state economically is dependent upon the hospitality and service industry, there's no question that when you can really start to build the labor movement, it's going to overwhelm the GOP. It's just unfortunate that we have a Democratic Party in this state that kind of just acts as, controlled opposition. And not really seeking to make that
they're
change.
just sitting there. They're just sitting there and holding a spot to say that there's a second party, but they don't really do anything.
Yeah, there is really something to be said for, what direction we're going to head in, going forward. But I do think that we are heading in the right direction. But we have to keep
the correct direction.
The correct direction. You got to keep the pressure on. There's no doubt that you have to keep the pressure on, because now you have a mayor in an immensely important county from, like I said, from a political standpoint. I mean, Miami-Dade more or less decides, what direction that this state goes in. Marco Rubio is a United States senator because he does exceptionally well in Miami-Dade. Now, the Cuban community has a lot to do with that. But when he runs, he does very well. And I think he's actually won Miami-Dade County. I don't know if he's won it both times that he's won the Senate election, but he does very well. And because of that, he wins. If he doesn't do that well in Miami-Dade, he won't win. We now have
Florida.
Yeah, Florida never ceases to amaze.
It's just
Jofer, we support ranked choice voting. I also think hand-marked paper ballots is a huge thing as well. There's a lot of things we can do to protect the vote.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that people don't understand. They think, paper ballots. Well, no. It's how they're counted. We have paper ballots in this state. We have paper ballots. We have paper ballots, but they get run through a machine, and then even when there's a recount, they still get rerun through that same machine. So it isn't the paper ballots; it's that they need to be hand counted.
Right. So we definitely are on our way as far as making those changes, and I know a lot of people are anticipating that the bottom's going to fall out. They think that this is it's a useless exercise in trying to change the system, but I don't agree. I think we've come a really long way in the last 5 years. I really do, considering that all the crap I had to listen to, because I was a Bernie supporter from the jump. Didn't even hesitate. I knew right away who he was and what he was trying to do, and I was on board with it 1,000%. And I knew that the Clinton machine was going to come at him as hard as anything. And even that, I didn't anticipate how far they would go and the levels that they would sink to.
And yet we still made progress.
We did, because he changed the narrative. The narrative has changed. And even when you look at the exit polling, again, I always say corporate special interest money is the most devastating component of our political system. Yeah. corporate media, which is funded by corporate special interest money,
Same thing.
is what drives the narrative. And that is the big problem, because you have Biden winning the primary, supposedly, strictly because they thought, well, this guy can beat Trump. But if you look at where the voters, even the Biden voters, fell on issues like a living wage, like Medicare for all, like a Green New Deal, like ending the wars, like civil liberties, and so on, they were basically in line with Bernie's people. So what that tells me is the power of the corporate media to drive the narrative is still very, very strong. Now, we're obviously not in a position yet where we're actually making headway. We've got 30 people watching live at any one moment, 40 people in some instances tonight.
We're working on it. We're working on
it.
it. However, since there could be people on that weren't on in the beginning, speaking of the importance of journalism, we will be hosting a Pardon Assange live stream telethon on March 20th.
I'm going to write it down.
Katie Halper is going to co-host that with me.
Ironically, I'll just be getting back into town.
Well, yeah. Well, when are you coming back?
18th. Pardon Assange.
Oh, I thought you were going the first week.
No.
Okay.
Pardon Assange telethon.
Yeah.
Hosted by Jen Perlman and Katie Halper.
And yeah, so that's going to be fun. And we're going to have a variety of different people and panels and guests, and to be determined, but it will be on Saturday, the 20th. We will figure out the chunk of time. And yeah, based on different availability, based on time zones, based on a few different things. Yeah, maybe, you know what? Maybe we should have her on as a guest, Anthony. We should have Ivanka on as a guest. She's going for Rubio. No, she's not, but
maybe she'll go for
but we support Alan Ellison as of now.
Yes.
As of right now, that's our guy.
There's nobody else that's going to get in the race.
I mean, I don't know who's going to, if anybody's going to really challenge him in a primary.
Val Demings is the only one I could see. She's the one.
I'm saying who would challenge Rubio in a primary.
Oh, Rubio. No, you're talking about on the, Matt Gaetz. He'd be the only one.
That would be so interesting.
That would be fun.
It would be like a duel between North and South Florida.
It would.
I know.
And it'd be pretty.
It would be like the Florida Civil War.
No, it would be entertaining. It would be. But again, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I do think that a primary is a good thing, but they look at it as, well, it would weaken an opponent. You see, the thing about the GOP is that they'll challenge each other. They have primaries. They'll always fight it out. But when it comes to the general election, they fall in line against Democrats every time. That's the difference. This whole idea that the Republicans just fall in line, to me, Declan always coming through with something smart to say.
Oh, yeah.
So I would
love you, Declan.
I would definitely say that I think that there's a chance that Gaetz will do it. I do. Because I do think
because he's an egomaniacal narcissist?
Just because nobody bends the knee the way that Marco Rubio does. I mean, he doesn't stand for anything.
Yeah.
Like he's just so, I mean, again.
He needs water.
It's just, hold on.
Let's get our water.
Back to what I was saying. Obama stinks.
Sip to Marco Rubio.
And it's like, Marco, you're done, buddy.
Oh, he's so pathetic.
The sip heard round the world. I can't believe, I mean, so you have to imagine that at that moment, there was some handler looking right at him. It's like, no!
and yet he still persevered. It wasn't as bad as what I swear was.
He didn't have to deal with Alan Grayson.
It wasn't.
He had to deal with, Patrick Murphy. Oh, does the white power lady want to come back?
All right, come back.
And as we wind down the show,
say goodbye, bye, Lulu.
Who's the sweetest little schmoopy head? Who's a good girl?
I agree, John. Alan is lovely.
Yes, Alan is a good person. And,
Alan Ellison has already announced that he is running against Marco Rubio.
The only thing, and before we go, we will get into the conversation real quick about the gubernatorial race, because it looks like things are starting to shape up now. But what I will say is no one is just going to leave a progressive at the state level like Florida, like Alan Ellison, to run this thing by himself. Not a chance in hell. So somebody's going to get in there. My opinion, it's going to be Val Demings. I could be wrong, but I think that's who's.
You think that's going to be the establishment?
That's the establishment's choice. Yep, that's who will do it.
Okay, well, that's interesting. You don't think it'll be Debbie Merkelso Powell?
She could, but she'll lose.
Well,
So that's
so will, yeah.
so what I but the race.
So will pretty much
The
most
race
people, I
is,
think.
but the race is the gubernatorial race, because most people know that the chance of Marco Rubio losing his Senate seat, very thin.
Yeah.
So
I'm not, and I still, the jury is out for me in terms of if I think that DeSantis actually is going to lose. I
do think
I
there's a
don't know.
chance.
Well, it depends on if there's various factors.
the reason why I think there's a chance that DeSantis will lose is because I think he's handling COVID horrifically wrong.
Well,
I
yeah,
think he
for
is
sure.
a complete Trump toady, and a lot of people are just looking at him like he doesn't really stand for much. And on top of that, yeah, he's a jerk, and that does matter. And finally, yeah, not true. And
No.
finally, I do think that having a scandal like he has with what he did with
Well,
Rebecca
we'll see
Jones,
how much that affects him and if that's still an issue a year from now. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. This is going to come down to how unpopular DeSantis is at the time of the election. That's
agree.
what it is. So and it'll really depend on if where he is in the news cycle. That's what it's
I
gonna
do
come
think
down
that
to.
matters. I do. But I also think it matters who he goes up against. Now, I initially thought that the race was going to come down to Nikki Fried and Anna Eskamani. But now it looks like good old Charlie Crist is going to get in the race.
Oh God.
Now,
Good.
as
Let
much as
him.
people say, oh, no, that's terrible. Why would he get in the race? My response is that does not hurt Anna Eskamani. That hurts
Nope.
Nikki Fried.
Works for us.
So,
The more the merrier on the centrist side.
and the people who I have heard complaining the loudest about Charlie getting in are the people you would probably expect would, sort of this passing of the baton type thing. And they're going to play the sexist card with him. They're going to play the old white man card with Charlie, guaranteed, because that's what they do. It's not about
But
the
and
merits,
like I
it's
said,
not
the
issues.
concern with this is that yeah, all those centrists come in, will take votes from each other, but then I worry about that, the Obama effect at the end when the person comes in and unites them all, and then they all just, that's the.
I don't know
That's
if
the
that's
concern.
I don't know if that's going to necessarily have that same effect going forward. And look, is it possible that Biden is going to get involved in this race? Yeah, it's very possible. I wouldn't put that past him. I think it's possible Kamala is going to get involved. There is no shortage of what the top heads of the party will do in a state of such consequence.
And I don't even think they necessarily do it in front. I think they do it behind the scenes in
Yeah,
the
of course.
primary. They're not going to be out, publicly being out against somebody like Anna Eskamani, but they're going to be pulling every string they have to keep her from winning.
With that said, the difference between Anna and somebody like Andrew Gillum is she is an elected official in Tallahassee. She has a fantastic record. She has built a lot of solid relationships. She is at the forefront of doing work on behalf of the people when it comes to their unemployment benefits that they
Yeah.
desperately need.
She's been helping people down here that weren't getting help from some of the locals.
That is correct. And on top of that, she's a lovely, fresh face, great personality, and she's not driven by ego and
She doesn't
career.
take corporate money.
And she doesn't take corporate money. And that's the signature issue.
So
And with all due respect, Nikki Fried takes corporate money. And that is what will define the election in many ways. With that said, if Charlie Crist gets into this race, then I think it opens up the floodgates for a number of other candidates to get in. I think that opens up
I think it's going to be a circus.
It could be. I think that also opens up the floodgates for Jason Pizzo to potentially get in, because his name has been floated multiple times. I'm not really sure who else, but those are basically the four primary ones that I'm
It's
aware
going to
of.
be ugly.
Oh, of course it will. I mean, listen, everything is a free for all, and everyone says, "Oh, but we'll come together and we'll fight to defeat DeSantis." And my attitude is, yeah, I know you're all saying that that's what you're going to do, but the reality is, everyone primarily has an ego in this. Everyone wants to get the brass ring and continue. It's hard to believe that Charlie Crist actually was the governor before, several years ago.
He's just one
And
of
he's
those
gonna
like
do it again.
terminal people like we have down here. And he is sort of down here.
That is true. I will say this: if Charlie Crist becomes the nominee, DeSantis won't even have to lift a finger to get reelected. That's the truth.
Yeah,
He won't.
I
It'll
agree.
be a walk.
That'll be his easiest.
Absolutely, 100%. And Nikki talks a good game, but when you're talking about the corporate money and the fact that she has been wishy-washy on a number of big issues. Now, right now, she's saying the right things, but the corporate money will always define where you ultimately end up going. With Anna, actions speak louder than words, and her words speak big, and her actions speak even bigger. And I do think having a representative that can win the state from the I-4 corridor would be significant. Not only is she a House representative, but she's a House representative in one of the rare swing districts in the state of Florida. So she actually has to earn her seat.
Yeah.
And she earns it by being appealing to all colors of the political spectrum.
She sees it as a term of service and
She
not
does.
a career.
And so by doing that,
Fascinating.
she is somebody who I do think would serve this country well. The one thing that she's going to have working against her is that
I mean, our state. But
Yes.
let me say, can you imagine if someone like her was the governor?
yeah, you'd actually get a lot of good
And
things
she's
done.
still dealing with that legislature, so it is what it is. But like that would be just like the coolest thing ever.
It would, but they would hate her so much. 'Cause she's a young
Absolutely,
woman.
but like that would really, I mean, I think
Now, if you
that
guys
would be
wanna
like
see-
the coolest thing
Yeah,
ever.
if you guys really want to see what sexism and misogyny looks like, let her become the governor and deal with a significant amount of old people. I don't even have to say men because it's not just men. But obviously the old white men will definitely be the most difficult for her to deal with. But they will treat her like she's a child.
Yeah.
You got people in there that are twice, if not three times
She's
her
a
age.
woman, she's young, and looks ethnic. That's not going to go easily through,
And
in Tallahassee.
and in
But
a state like
I
Florida,
love it.
and in a state like Florida, the fact that she is from the Middle East,
Yeah, she's Iranian.
she will
Yeah,
it
she's
will play
Iranian.
it'll play a
That's,
very interesting role. And I actually think it'll be worse on the Democratic side than the Republican side. I
And you know
people
what
say
I
it's
think is
crazy.
going to happen in South Florida? I think they're going to, especially the fact that she's Iranian.
Yes.
That will be mentioned multiple times.
It will be.
That will
It's
be
gonna get
what the
ugly.
Sun Sentinel. That will be what the Sun Sentinel focuses on.
Mhm. Because I can tell you this
They
much:
gotta play to their Jewish audience.
knowing
here.
Anna, she will have very little, if anything, to do with somebody like Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And so the battle lines will be drawn. Even somebody like Ted Deutsch, it's going to be interesting. But the first shots have been fired because Nikki has already put out. It wasn't an official campaign ad, but if you've seen it, you know what she's doing. It's pretty clear what her
She's
plan is.
fundraising.
Yeah.
She's
100%.
asking for money.
So this is what they do. They typically build their coffers up as much as they can so that when they officially announce, they raise a boatload of money. I was going to say the S word. Can't.
Yeah, don't do it.
So you raise a boatload of money right then. And hey, look at that. She raised a few $100,000.
I think that
right out of the
she
gate.
already has the establishment behind her. I think they have since the past few state conventions. I
Well-
think that that's their girl. I
Well,
think
that-
that's who
you-
they're going to get behind.
You may be right, but then why is Charlie Crist even considering
For
it?
the same reason we had people like Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg and all those other people. That's my thought, is they're going to go with that strategy to inundate with centrists and then coalesce behind one person, because that's what they're going to do. And they probably already know that someone like Anna Eskamani is brewing out there, and they are aware of that, and they have got to. So that's why
Well, here's the thing.
they're all controlled
If
opposition.
they really think Anna's a threat, then they have to clear the field because they cannot run the risk. I mean, I guess the argument is,
They'd have to find someone who even remotely looks progressive to put in there against
yeah,
her.
the only, again, it all depends, because the truth is the reason why Gillum was able to win is because there were enough people in the race that took votes away from Gwen Graham.
Yeah,
And so,
there was a fair amount of centrism there.
no, absolutely there was. But Gillum came as close to winning the governor's race as a Democrat as anyone had since the last time they held the governor's seat.
And the reason that he got as far as he did was because of the progressives.
Yes.
So I'd like to be hopeful, and I don't know, but that's why. When you ask why is someone like Charlie Crist, because probably the Democratic Party is probably scrounging all around the state trying to find every body that they can to come in and add more bodies to that race.
And that's usually what ultimately ends up happening, as far as I can tell.
They'll probably wheel out Shalala.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Jen's had, slate mates that have run in certain parts of the country where there's no question that they stuck sort of like a proxy candidate in the middle of the race to screw it up.
That's very
because
common.
they know that this progressive challenger is coming, and they're going to get there. And so maybe the thought is we got to get a number of candidates in the race and then ultimately coalesce behind one person.
And then you have somebody like, I don't know, some big name person come out and say, oh, you really all should get behind so-and-so, hence the Obama approach to primaries.
Of course.
And I'm going to call that the Obama move. It's the Obama. That's it. Now, to me, in any election, when I feel like they're building up a whole bunch of people, so to then be able to coalesce behind one person to screw the progressive, that is now called the Obama.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's gonna be interesting. And so for Thursday, let everybody know
who is coming on Thursday.
2.
Oh my God, we have 2 guests on Thursday. This is very exciting.
Yes. So the first guest is going to be a local candidate, which is always a good thing, even though, we think that election season is only at certain times of the year, but as we all know, elections happen all the time. Carrie, no, John, no.
Why don't you read your text? John, he doesn't read text. I was wondering why he was saying that.
Okay.
He doesn't read text. So it's a good thing we didn't make an announcement.
It ain't diamond and soap.
Okay.
So I guess one guest. Okay. So one guest. Okay. So is it?
Unless we find someone else. You never know, John. I might come up. I could pull something out of my armpit. You never know.
Yeah.
I have all sorts of cool guests.
Yes. All right. So now I got to go back and check and just confirm what's coming.
It's somebody running for office. It's a candidate. We have a candidate. And I think Virginia, and it's a woman. And she's a cute blonde person. I just saw a picture.
Yes. Allie Deismer, I think is how you say it.
Hold on. I'm going to look it up. Yeah,
I think that's it.
Okay. Hold on.
No, it's not. I already was in the chat, so it's not there. So.
Oh, you know where I know where it is. I know where it is.
So you have a calendar already set up.
Allie Dalsimer.
Okay,
Allie Dalsimer.
That's it. So she's running for Congress in Maryland's.
No, wait, hold on. I'm going to tell you. Virginia's 11th.
Virginia's 11th, excuse me. So she's somebody who probably supports Lee Carter. Might be very likely.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. So, yeah. Allie Dalsimer is running for, that's it. 11th District of Virginia.
All right. That's awesome. So, we're going to keep, the guests are coming and they're only going to get bigger. And of course, like I said, we're looking to do a labor series starting in March. So that'll be big. Yeah.
So Mondays, we're really going to, I think, focus state stuff and labor. I think that that's a good mix for Mondays.
Remember to keep spreading the word. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Watch there. That's the best place. That helps us out a lot. And let the ads run. Can't emphasize that enough. It really helps the channel when you let the ads run. We're not going to ask people. I mean, listen, if you want to be a Patreon, that's wonderful. We welcome it. But what's most important is we can do the little things to help grow the channel without having people to necessarily just give money.
We could get, Mallory, we could probably get Paula Jean to come on.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. And we really appreciate you guys, turning out tonight. I hope you're all satisfied. We didn't want to grill.
No, because there's no purpose to that, and there's no purpose to doing that. It doesn't serve to do that in this capacity.
But we didn't back down either, and we wanted to make sure that we were being very direct in addressing the issues that are the most important to everybody. And like I said, we're going to continue to grow this thing as best we can.
Are you a fan of Jessica Cisneros?
Yeah, she's good people.
She's sweet. Yeah.
Yep. And so. Like I said, guys, we just gotta keep spreading the word.
Is she running again? Did she announce? Is
not
that
yet.
Okay. Because I'm wondering, because
she might.
Look, Cuellar is a total POS. I remember him coming in on the heels of someone. When I was living in San Antonio, we actually had a really good representative, and his name was, I want to say it was Gonzalez. It was the son of, it was Henry Gonzalez. I want to say, but he was really good. And then this guy came, and he was not. And Cuellar is like, the fact that he even calls himself a Democrat is ludicrous to me. He is an anti-choice Democrat.
Well,
He's an anti-choice Democrat.
Well, a lot of people have been getting away with a lot of stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
finally, maybe
so
finally
yeah,
coming back to get 'em.
yeah, I've actually, yeah, I could reach out. We could reach out to these people. If you guys have, like ideas and suggestions, we'll take note of that and reach out to those people. We're always looking for people to bring on.
Who's going to be our special guest before we go off the air? Michaela's going to be on the show soon, Kyler.
Yeah, we can get Michaela to come on too. I mean, the truth is all of those races are not until next year.
That's right.
Okay. So what we're really focusing on sooner are the races that are happening sooner. So for example, there's the New York mayoral race. There's things that there's the Virginia race, like there. So any races that are happening sooner or local sooner, that's what we're trying to get in as much as we can before their elections. But yeah, we will have on all those people, and I can easily text Michaela.
All right. I think I know who we're going to bring on.
It's time. It's time for the nonsense. The nonsense is commencing.
Oh,
It's
Jen,
never as funny when you're in a regular shirt. It's always funnier in the Jen t-shirt.
I just got off the Senate floor, and I understand that people are still concerned about whether or not I'm going to vote for Neera Tanden.
Yes, we are. We think that if you vote for Neera Tanden, that you're a doormat. That's what we think.
I resent that. That is not true. I am not a doormat. I am just trying to have civility. I know that's very important to my good friend
Neera
Joe.
Tanden hasn't met civility. She doesn't know what that looks like.
Well, look, Neera's, not exactly the most qualified person for the position. And I don't think, we necessarily have another choice right now. I'm not sure what decision I'm going to make, but I do think at the end of the day, we need to move past all of the violent rhetoric from the past. I know it's not really, it's not working for most people. I understand. They're not exactly convinced that what I'm saying is the truth.
She's a horrible human being.
Look,
She's a horrible human being. That's it. And highly unqualified for that job.
again, if somebody else is more qualified, I certainly hope you step up. I don't want this to fall on my shoulders, but unfortunately, I have a bad feeling it's going to. And then I'm going to have to make these decisions.
It's not a hard decision. She's a horrible human being. It's a quite easy decision. And the Democratic Party is not your friend.
Well, again, but the Democratic Party is in charge right now, and did I mention I am the Senate budget?
Yes, I did. And I also saw Chuck Schumer reach out and say he wanted to share his power with Mitch McConnell. So I see a lot of things.
Look, I don't agree with that. I don't think that Mitch McConnell's a good guy, and Senator Schumer's.
He's also a horrible human being.
Well, listen, I'm not friends with Mitch. I don't want to do any business with him. And we have budget reconciliation, which is very important because we could technically pass a $15 minimum wage through budget reconciliation. That would be a great thing, wouldn't it be, Jen?
Yes, it would be a great thing. I don't think it's going to happen, mind you.
Well, I'm going to do everything I can for the American people as best I can. But right now, what is most important is that we do get this new stimulus package out, and it should have a $15 minimum wage.
But yet it won't, will it?
Look, I'm doing what I can. I mean, my good friend Joe,
Joe is not your friend.
Last I checked, he is my friend.
Yeah, no.
says
Well,
that
then
he
you know
is.
what? We have very different definitions of friends. Joe is not a friend.
Well, I don't really have that many friends on Capitol Hill, and I got to take what I can get.
Yeah,
A lot of them think
that's slim pickings. I understand, but
Oh.
Joe is not our friend.
With that said, we're going to do what we can for the American people. I just hope it doesn't come down to my vote. I do not want to be the person who has to cast this vote and make a decision based on Neera Tanden.
I don't even know how you can even consider this like a choice. Megan's asking, when are we going to get Bernie the real Bernie on the show? Now, I would say it's highly unlikely. However, I highly recommend that you go and look at my Nina Turner interview because it's sort of like, it's almost better than Bernie, I'm sorry, no offense.
I
but
told you that Jane is going to come on the show and you'll talk to her at some
I'd
point.
love to get Jane on the show.
Jane will come on and then I'll make a surprise appearance or something
You
like that.
think?
That is the best you can hope for, and that's the best you can do. Just better hope that I'm in Burlington at the time when you're doing the interview.
Oh. Yeah, no, I wouldn't invite Joe. I can't invite Joe, and he can't do Joe. He tries, but it's not good.
Yeah, no, Joe is not going to come on your show. He doesn't particularly.
You won't
think
come
I'm
on
all
my
of it.
show.
That's not true. I'm here right now. I'm doing the best. For all the people in the audience, we really appreciate you coming on the show tonight.
You didn't even endorse me.
Well, you weren't going to win. I'm sorry. I gotta use.
And that's the criteria.
I got to use my political capital as best I can.
Oh,
Debbie
for
Wasserman Schultz is a terrible person, but you are doing a wonderful job of building your name recognition. You're becoming much more known throughout the area, and you're doing a lot of great work for all the people in this part of the country that really need it.
Well, someone has to do something.
Well, you're doing a wonderful job, and I really
thank
appreciate that. And maybe if you run again, I'll consider supporting you. You never know.
I'm not
There's a
holding
lot
my
less
breath.
pressure now. You know,
A lot less pressure now.
Well,
You
Debbie's got
still
that.
have to work with that snake.
it depends. There's a lot of snakes on Capitol Hill.
Oh,
Which one are you
God.
talking
I'm
about?
talking about Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Well, Debbie's she's got really evil eyes. I cannot look at her in the eye, and she's very scary.
It's funny with you saying that because this Bernie has such demented eyes.
Well, don't say that about my eyes. I'm 78 years old. I cannot believe you would say that. I'm gonna. Do you know that I am turning 80 in September?
I'm turning 50 in May.
That's tragic.
I know.
You're almost as old as me,
Almost.
but I feel pretty good for my age. I can still do what I want to do. I'm still out running every day. Hey, I'm exercising. I gotta stay young. Gotta stay youthful. How do you think I do 8-hour filibusters on the Senate floor?
I don't know.
That's the only way I can do it.
Ugh.
So, people, please stay in the fight. Trust me when I tell you, we are building a revolution in this country. It takes time, but stay in the fight. That's all I can say.
We're in the fight. We are trying to be South Florida's progressive hub.
Don't hate me if I vote for Nira. I really don't want to.
I'm not going to hate you. I just find a lot of it very disappointing, and it's sad.
Hopefully it
And
won't
it just you know what?
Maybe I'll surprise you all. You never know.
Please don't vote for Neera Tanden.
I cannot answer that question right now,
Ugh.
but I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye, Bernie.
Yeah, I certainly hope he doesn't. vote for her.
It's like it's like twisting the knife just a little bit more to think that Bernie would support Neera Tanden.
Would it have to come down to him?
Oh God! But it is. It's like that turning that knife.
That's the only thing I could think
He's
of.
not going to get anything for that any more than he got something for supporting Joe, any more than he got anything for anything that he's ever done for that party, ever. He's got nothing. He got bupkis for any of it. Nothing.
I hope that he doesn't vote for her, but again, I won't keep. I will not. I won't hold my breath. I just hope it doesn't come down to him. If it comes down to Bernie's vote,
You know what? Even if it doesn't come down to his vote, the fact that he even would vote for her is crazy to me. That's crazy.
yeah. But again, it's
If you guys are putting out guest recommendations, please email them. I have it up on the screen, generationalchange@gmail.com, generational change with a J.
yes.
If you have guest and this is serious, like don't send us ridiculous stuff just to be annoying. We are trying to advance. We are trying to advance a dialogue. We are trying to push the needle. We are trying to move things in a progressive motion forward in any way that we can, focusing on South Florida and just trying to help people. That's it. That's all we're trying to do. So if you have something to contribute that's positive in that way, we appreciate it. I'm even starting to like our trolls.
yeah.
Shout out to Declan.
Yeah. No, that's a good thing because it adds more to the algorithms. That's always good.
And that's about it. So we will be back on Thursday.
Yes.
We don't have anything going on between now and then. Obviously,
As far as I know.
yeah, there's no pantry on Friday, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So there's no pantry on Friday. So that'll be a pretty full garden day. And then starting in March, we will start with Taco Tuesday. And yeah, I will get people some tacos. There are tacos to be had at Taco Tuesday.
Well, that's always fish tacos. That is.
Well, no, other people can have other kinds of tacos.
Yeah.
I like fish tacos, but I will provide other people to have chicken or beef tacos if they want those. That's fine. I'm not averse to getting those for other people. We will have a plethora of tacos.
Plethora.
A plethora.
Yeah, you can't say it.
Plethora.
You can't say it.
No, it's really plethora, except for then I've heard so many people lately saying plethora, but it's plethora.
Water. Tomato.
If you reveal yourself, Jimmy or Sam, I know it's Sam. Here's how I know it's Sam, because I know he was on. He hasn't. It's sort of like Clark Kent and Superman. We haven't seen him. He was posting, and when we started, he hasn't been posting since Jimmy came on. Jimmy and Sam are never on at the same time. That's how I know it's Sam.
Oh, isn't that funny?
And it's something he would do.
It is something he would do.
I know.
Good night, all.
Peace out, all.